I had already covered the original Japanese animated movie based on Street Fighter II, so now let's talk about the American live-action one. As I mentioned in the other review, I've always been a big fan of the Street Fighter series. I remember the first time I saw the game and I got to play it. There was just something about it. Nothing like that had really been done on that scale. I'd played fighting games previously. I owned a copy of Karate Champ for the NES, but that game kinda sucked. And you could only play as two guys who had identical movesets. Street Fighter II, however, had 8 characters, each with their own fighting style and unique personalities. It made the game really interesting. I remember when I first heard rumblings of the Street Fighter movie. First there was sort of a false alarm. There was a Jackie Chan movie in China that had a whole Street Fighter II part in it, but that was more of a parody. Then I heard about the actual movie in GamePro magazine. All the info they had was that it was coming, and that Jean-Claude Van Damme was going to play Guile. You know, that's so weird. And part of the issue I had with the movie, when I was a kid, I was too young to realize how bad of an idea it was. It just seemed to make sense. He was a martial artist, so he plays Guile. But the thing about it is that he's the big name of the movie, which made Guile the main character. Everything about Guile and his design in the game was to beat you over the head with the fact that he's American. Obviously, you fight him in America. He has a ridiculous haircut that would only make sense in the context of America in the 90s. His background is an Air Force base. He wears fatigues and dog tags. And most telling, he has a tattoo, which is somewhat taboo in Japan because it's associated with the Yakuza. And of course, the tattoo is of the American flag. One funny thing is that when he turns around, you can still see it. Obviously, they just flipped the sprite, but I like to think he has 2 of them. Oh god, here I am avoiding talking about the movie. Jean-Claude Van Damme. So, he really should have played Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat instead. Do you know Mortal Kombat started off as a game about Jean-Claude Van Damme, but then they couldn't get him? But Johnny Cage looks just like him and... Oh god. I really do have to talk about the Street Fighter movie, don't I? Okay, well, it's bad, but it's at the least watchable. Yeah, Van Damme, a Belgian guy with a very thick accent, plays the American stereotype Guile, and that's just the beginning of the cast problems. You got Kylie Minogue and her mathematically perfect ass playing Cammy. Normally I wouldn't complain, but she's an awful actor. At least they could have put her in the outfit from the games. That would have distracted me. Chun-Li is a news reporter because, why not? The Charlie character had not yet been established in Street Fighter Alpha. He was just some guy that Guile mentioned in the game, so they decided that he is also Blanca. Sagat is an old arms dealer. Ken and Ryu are petty criminals who steal from other criminals, and they're the comic relief. E Honda is Hawaiian, Balrog is a cameraman, Dalsum is a scientist, and he's British. You have to wonder, did they get anything right character-wise? Well, there's Vega. Vega is exactly as you expect him, a cage fighter with soap opera looks and a heavy sense of vanity, who uses a claw and a mask. And they got M. Bison right, though instead of trying to make himself more powerful by stealing the souls of powerful fighters, he's just out for money. Bison is played by the late great Raul Julia. This was his last motion picture role before he died of cancer, and the movie is dedicated to him, which is both touching and insulting at the same time. As bad as the plot and script are, Raul delivered all of his lines with panache and zeal. He was a true professional and a great actor, and it's a damn shame that this was his last movie. In the movie, Bison is holding a bunch of soldiers hostage for $20 billion. Guile is a colonel who wants to go and, kick Bison's ass, but he's having a hard time getting that done because no one can get near Bison. They try to get someone inside his operation, so they recruit Ryu and Ken, who had just gotten arrested along with Sagat and Vega. They fake a jailbreak and get Sagat's weapons to Bison and get inside the organization. Chun-Li is an annoying news reporter whose father was killed by Bison ages ago, and her entourage, Balrog and E Honda, are also out for Bison because he ruined their careers. For no reason than apparently he's a dick. You're a dick! Blah, 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 a bunch of shit happens. There's a surprisingly small amount of martial arts. Charlie turns into Blanca, but then him and Dalsum get blowed up. Guile fights Bison and wins. There's an end credit sequence that hints at a sequel that never really happened, and the next Street Fighter movie would be a complete reboot. Really. I saw this as a kid, so I had very low standards at the time. All I wanted to see was the characters fighting, and there's not enough of that. The movie just drags on with all this military shit until finally you think you're about to see Ryu fight Vega, and then it never happens. Guile interrupts them by driving a tank into the room. Most of the martial arts fights are by Guile, Ken, Ryu, or Chun-Li beating up random mooks. There's very few one-on-one fights. One thing that I found weird was that Chun-Li just beats the snot out of Bison, and the only reason he survives is because Chun-Li gets distracted when he runs away. But then at the end, he's shown to be a very capable fighter. There's a fight between Zangief and Honda that looks like a high school fight, a whole lot of sloppy grappling and rabbit punches, and not a whole lot of actual fighting. They try to emulate a few of the special moves from the game. Some of them, like Ken's dinky Shoryuken and Ryu's lightless Hadouken, are ridiculous. Though I thought Guile's flash kick was okay. At least it looked like something Van Damme did on his own. So needless to say, I was disappointed as a kid. As an adult, it's worse because you tend to pay attention to the plot, which is ridiculous. And like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, it can't decide whether it's serious or campy. I think they should have gone full-on campy, but that's just me. Make it a comedy. There are a few saving graces. The good parts all have to do with Raul Julia. One is the scene where Chun-Li explains why she's out for revenge, and this seminal moment in her life where Bison sacked her village and killed her father, and Bison says he doesn't remember, as he did shit like that all the time. It's a great put-down because the seminal moment of Chun-Li's entire adult life is so inconsequential to Bison that he doesn't remember it. I like that. And Raul delivered the line well when he says, "To me it was Tuesday." The other part is at the end when he's fighting Guile and he totally flips his shit. Throughout the movie they keep showing that Bison is pretty insane, but at the end he completely loses it and believes himself to be a god. It's so very campy, but Raul Julia embraced it. It's that kind of dedication to the quirky aspects of the character that made him so great in The Addams Family and made the sequel to that movie tolerable. But it's small comfort. The movie is ridiculous, but that's the problem. It's not ridiculous enough to be a good comedy, and it's not anything like the games to appeal to Street Fighter fans, so I can't help but wonder who the intended target audience was. 4 out of a possible 10. It seems generous, but trust me, it gets worse.